It's pretty obvious that I love steampunk. It's cool, what can I say? And today I've got something special for you guys. Over the course of this video, I'm gonna show you 10 of my favorite steampunk building tips for Minecraft projects of all sizes. And just to show you that this advice is legit, I'm actually gonna use these tips as we go along to build a giant walking steampunk mega mansion, complete with gears, mechanisms, weird stuff, and a custom landscape. We're starting off with the legs here, and the first thing I want to show you guys is that you can make these really cool designs mimicking like hydraulics and cables and make these really nice realistic mechanisms. I got these cool gear designs, which I'll show off in more detail later. But more importantly for right now, check out how I'm making these like main arm bones out of the white blocks, and then I've got these supporting hydraulics and structures made out of the black stone around the sides. It creates a really sturdy, very mechanical, very spindly feeling, and it's very, very cool. I'm constantly varying the shapes, the thicknesses, the sizes, and of course I'm using a bunch of steampunky industrial blocks like, copper and blackstone and deep slate and all that. For the feet down here, I'm once again working with really weird and wacky angles. Like, look at the very sharp bend that these deep slate bits have down here. And I'm varying the length of the lower leg to make it look a lot like a piston or some sort of hydraulic mechanism. It's pretty neat. Just you wait and see what we're gonna be attaching these legs to. For my second tip, we're working on the outer hull, kind of the lower body of our steampunk house. We got these crazy looking robot legs that are gonna be supporting a whole cylinder here, which is essentially like the engine of this entire thing. It's kind of like the drivetrain. It's supporting the entire house up top. I'm adding in a bunch of details on the sides and the top, and that's what I really wanted to talk about for this tip. All these vents, the slats, the openings here. You can see I got these giant openings in the top that I'm filling with acacia trapdoors on top of shroom lights, which I think look really neat. I got these cool like copper slats with lava behind them, which I think really look cool and industrial and very menacing in a weird way. So yeah, I'm really making this thing look as bulky and sturdy as I can, which is really, really important for a realistic steampunk build. It's gotta have weight, it's gotta have gravity to it, it's gotta feel like it could actually hold itself up. Moving on to tip 3, I'm adding in more details on top of this lower body here, mainly gears. And here's where I gotta pause and show you guys all these wacky gears that I've created for this video. We got big gears, we got small gears, we got tiny gears, we got flat gears, we got these giant white gears. The giant white gear is gonna be layered on top of itself in the center here, like one threaded pillar in the middle. That's going to be the main support mechanism for this entire thing. Imagine this thing like spinning around and the upper platform raising itself up and down very slowly with these side gears supporting the entire thing. It's pretty awesome. Like I said, I'm using these smaller gear axles to connect the top and bottom of the body. We can take another look at the gear designs here. I'm using a variety of block palettes because if I just use copper or I just use deep slate, I think they would get very boring very quickly. Moving on up one more layer, we've got this upper platform here made out of blackstone, and this, my friends, this is where the fun begins. This is where we're gonna start actually building up the entire house, which is sitting on top of this crazy mechanism we've created. And for this house, I've drawn a ton of inspiration from previous builds, specifically two-door houses, which I've made quite a few of in the past. One of the key things about two-door houses, which you can kind of see forming here, is that the lower levels generally are a little bit smaller than the upper levels, right? Like the upper levels kind of extrude a little bit from the base shape of the house, which I think adds steampunky fantasy whimsy of having the houses not quite be the right shape, and like I said earlier, bending gravity and physics just a little bit, not breaking it entirely. For block palette, I really love the contrast of the black stone and the white blocks. I'm using diorite, calcite, and white concrete powder here, and then some dark oak wood. As I'm putting the roof on together, you can see I'm once again using deep slate. I'm throwing in the polished deep slate kind of like as a funny little border around the edge of the roof. I think it's a nice little look. I'm not entirely sure what purpose it would serve in real life, but yeah, this thing isn't realistic anyways. But you can really see how I'm outlining a massive house here. Like, this is a huge mansion, and I am very, very happy with how it's turning out. Tip number 5, if you're going for like a steampunky house kind of thing like I'm doing here, then you can really go nuts with the details. Like the stairs, slabs, trapdoors, and gates to make these very intricate wall designs. You know, there's lots of depth. They look very Victorian, kind of gothic. If you're interested, feel free to pause the video and take a look at exactly what I'm doing here. I'm making spaces for windows. I'm adding in these like cool bars and slats across the walls. Like taking a look at how our house is fitting on top of our kind of mechanical base here. It's pretty different. You know, they are different styles, but that's okay. I think it's totally fine to cobble these different building styles and block palettes together. All right, we've thrown together the Tudor house structure, but you know, this thing is missing a lot of details. And the first thing I want to throw in are some smokestacks. Just a whole bunch of smokestacks, just throw them everywhere. I don't care if they're symmetrical. I don't care if they're aligned nicely. It's a steampunk build, so we're throwing in a whole bunch of smokestacks. We got this cool little gradient going on where we're transitioning from the black stone up into mud, up into deep slate. I really like how the mud color is a very nice kind of middle ground between these two, and it doesn't have too much like rough textureness, so it doesn't really feel out of place with these bricks. The shapes of them are all curving inwards and then billowing outwards at the top, where I got these cool little copper rings around the top just for a little bit of detail. And of course, we've got a whole bunch of campfires making smoke to add some motion and some real life and energy to this otherwise a very static build. I really like these smokestacks and they're awesome, but you know, there's kind of a problem we got going on with this build so far. It's not very colorful. It's just a bunch of blacks and grays and orange and brown, and that's kind of boring. So why don't we go change that? I wanted to have a very regal, very lavish looking round terrace around the front of this mansion, complete with lanterns and walkways and a water fountain. So as I'm laying this down, we got a lot more green coming into this build now. We got some blues, we got some light grays, and all this stuff coming together. It's some really nice color contrast. You know, despite this thing being a giant walking monstrosity of gears and steam and mechanisms, somebody still lives here, I guess. You know, I'm not sure who'd be crazy enough to live here, but you know, someone actually lives here, I think. Around the side, I wanted to have another little secondary terrace on the side here. It's just a kind of a last minute addition to the build. I thought it would be really nice to have another little small section that had some greenery, so it wasn't just all concentrated in the front. But enough of the front. We have a lot of really big gaping holes in our project that I really want to fill in, so let's get around to that. So yeah, we got some more colors in place here, but what steampunk build isn't complete without pipes, mechanisms, and sidings, and you can see me adding a bunch of that in here. I got some pipes poking out of the Tudor house here. You can see I'm using acacia trap doors, of course, with this really cool little design. This is a pretty standard Minecraft pipe design, but it's tried and true, it's fantastic. Also around the sides, I'm throwing in more of these really cool arms. I love these designs so much, and I just really wanted to repurpose the leg design for some stuff on the upper half of the build here. And I'm making these arms do all sorts of wacky things, right? We got like a little claw here. We got a funny little poking device poking out of the top of this roof. We got a massive claw around the back with a massive gripping arm. Reminds me kind of like of like an arcade claw machine almost. And last but not least, guys, I'm throwing together a giant, aggressively oversized telescope right on the top where these giant arms are protruding out from the top of the roof. This thing is so stupid and so silly, but I love it so much. But yeah, check out how much this Tudor house has been improved with the addition of all these little gadgets and gizmos and pipes and stuff. We've added so much more color, right? We got the oranges and the whites back, but we still have a giant back section with nothing here. So yeah, let's do something about that. Tip number 9. This one I think is actually really cool, but if you are having trouble coming up with more designs and cool little structures to add into your build, take some inspiration from real life computer components. I know that sounds a little bit crazy, but some of them are genuinely really steampunky. Like check out this cool quartz quarter circle coming around the back here, acting as some sort of cooling system, very much inspired by a CPU cooler. You know, real life machines often need a lot of surface area and ventilation to cool themselves, and I would imagine this giant monstrosity of a house wouldn't be any different. I've added in this cool little power bank as well with the ochre frog lights and a whole bunch of pipe and copper siding around the corners. 4 more giant gears shoved in the sides there. This is almost like an energy reservoir. You know, we've got this raw energy in the form of lava just sitting right here in the center, and this is the same lava that's flowing through a lot of the pipes across our entire project. So I'm imagining that it's being kind of distributed out to the different sections of the house, power powering all the different mechanisms. So yeah, guys, we're almost done with this project. Thank you guys for sticking around this far, but we've got one last very crucial step, so don't go anywhere. And for my last tip, guys, I just wanted to say, go nuts with the final touches. Steampunk is all about those weird little gadgets, gizmos, and other tiny little details that often get left out in larger projects like this. Make sure you take the time to add in those little things like grass in the lawn, lightning rods in weird places, spikes coming out of the roof, because why not? Wool as like a connecting cord between the back of the telescope and the main kind of CPU area we were talking about before. And of course, we can't forget about this custom desert wasteland landscape that I threw together with the Axiom mod at the beginning of this video. Didn't really talk much about it because, you know, that's not the focal point, but it's pretty neat and I think it really does add to the vibe. You know, we have a real proper environment here and that's kind of the ambiance that I was going for with this thing. And you know, if you really wanted to go crazy, you could even build an interior. Imagine doing that, guys, am I right? Anyways, y'all, this build was super fun to put together, and I really hope you guys enjoyed watching me assemble this as much as I hoped you guys learned something from all the knowledge and all the tips that I was throwing at you guys today. So if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like on it down below, and if you're not subscribed, consider doing that as well. It really does help me out, guys. And until next time, this has been Leon, and I'll see you all in the next Minecraft video.